And the first wedding I ever did, the first marriage ceremony I ever performed, the bride, this was in Chicago, the bride was a Playboy bunny at the Playboy Club in Chicago. God is good. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was at this wedding, and I remembered a whole bunch of stuff. As I watched this ceremony, this was in a new evangelical, very conservative church. No frills in the church at all. There was a black curtain, candles, and some fancy kind of a canopy set up. And the service was a very evangelical service. I saw these folks I hadn't seen in many years, and we were all sharing photos, you know, and you know what this is like when these are people that I grew up with, you know, people I went to picnics with and weddings, and they were around all the time. They were at our house every weekend, and then we had this big gap of time. And so now I'm showing them pictures of my children, whom they've never seen. I had a very odd feeling about that, you know. Molly and Mark and Katie and Sarah were people completely outside their realm. I mean, they looked at the pictures, and I looked at their pictures and the grandchildren's pictures, and I thought, isn't this odd? They don't know them. I don't know these grandchildren. I've never held these kids as babies, and it was almost too much to take in. How families are connected and then disconnected and then reconnect, and sometimes parts of the family is kind of the black sheep member, you know. We've all got those kinds of situations. Somebody who doesn't seem to be part of the family quite often because they've done something which is very difficult for everybody to accept. And I heard about all the successes and all the struggles, and you know, you look around the room and see all the people who had suffered divorce, and you look around the room and see the people who aren't there anymore, who have died, and who we still miss. And I was thinking about all that, and then the Cana story from the gospel came into my mind. And the question I asked myself was it so different in Jesus' time? I mean, you picture that wedding, and of course the costume and the geography and everything would be so very different. But in terms of the human interactions, do you think it was so different? Jesus went to this wedding, and you've seen weddings, and people making fools of themselves, and people doing very wonderful things, and just exciting and beautiful things happening. And you think it was the same when Jesus went to that wedding? I think it's unfortunate that so often everything that has Jesus connected with it seems to go into another realm for us, because after all, this is Jesus. So the wedding must have been something very different. I don't think it was. I think it was exactly like the wedding I attended a couple of weeks ago. All kinds of people, some of them dumb, some of them smart, some of them good dancers, some of them not so good. And all the things that they did, which we felt were fun and interesting. I think Jesus experienced the same kinds of things. And I think he fully participated in that wedding party. I think Jesus was engaged with those people, not standoffish or thinking, why do they do that? That's silly or that's foolish. I don't think there was any of that. And I think he had a great time at the wedding. I think he celebrated the beginning of this new life for this couple, just the way we celebrate when we go to a wedding. Although, as you all know, you have some people at the table who say, this'll never last. Forget it. Have you seen her? Have you seen him? Do you know what he's like? Do you know what this is never going to last. And so it's pretty funny that we make these judgments. And you know, the funny thing with me is, I heard these stories about people who've been married 40, 50 years. I had an aunt and uncle who said, those two, they'll never be together. She died not too long ago, but they were married almost 50 years before she died. And it was the same story. They'll never make it. It's funny how our judgments crowd in on stuff like this, and we really have no idea what we're talking about. And another thing at the wedding that I thought was interesting was that the youth pastor preached the sermon. to this young couple. The groom had already broken his ankle, so he was hobbling along on crutches during the ceremony, and the bride was pregnant. Which just goes to show you that life happens. And weddings or not weddings, you know, you can't make decisions about how things are going to be and how people are going to live. And this couple seems very much in love with each other, and they've been together for a long time. And so I think they're going to do fine. But the youth pastor, who obviously, this was his first wedding sermon. I'm going to tell you something. My first sermon, I threw away a long time ago. I don't ever want to hear that, read it, look at it, think about it ever again. This guy's sermon was, if you want to stay married, you will do this. And then he went through a long litany of stuff that you should do. This guy looked like he was about 28 years old. I thought to myself, oh boy, think about what you knew when you were 28 and what you now know now, those of you who are much older. What kind of life has passed by? And what kind of things did we think about? And that's true every year. Something new comes into our lives and we change and we experience new things because that's the way God planned it for us. And life is difficult. I don't think God wanted life to be difficult, but it is difficult. And so we learn as we go along, even through the suffering. And this couple, this young couple, is going to be the same way. This young bride and groom who are celebrating today have no idea what's in store for them, do they? Did you have it all figured out when you got married? Look around you. Chris, look at Tom. You know, the things that happen to us when our children come along and all the possibilities and all the struggles we have, it's just amazing. The bad things in life come along, and then there's blessing that's given to us, and somehow we get beyond it, and there are turning points, and our understandings of life change.